What's going on, everybody? Christopher Bartley here. I am with I was going to say main event, but he's really the well, he is the person with the main story,
There you go.
Cebien
There you go.
Alty. Oh, man, it's so good to have you here. So before we even get into anything, I got to work on my introductions. So I'm just going to go right into who you are, what you
Yep.
do, and let's just get right into it. No, we've been chopping it up a few minutes earlier,
That
so we're
sounds good.
already kind of, we're in the vibe. So that's all
Yeah,
good.
we're in it.
Yeah, we're in it. We're in it. In it to win it. So, speaking of winning, Cebien Alty is a corporate strategist and he's committed to youth development, emphasizing creating access for emerging professionals. Alongside, get this, guys, deploying innovative talent solutions into the marketplace. We talked about this before. Before he gets into a story, I want him to talk about what that means. That alongside is so key. And I told him it's genius. Those of you that know, I love doing business modeling. So he's not only doing the facing side of helping students, but he's also on the back end with the talent recruitment piece. Genius. As the CEO and founder of CBeyond Enterprises Worldwide, a career readiness and talent solutions company, Cebien aims to close the perceived talent gap between companies and emerging professionals. So his company does this by a few things: recruiting, developing, and sourcing collegiate level talent for internships, co-ops, and job opportunities. Everyone, welcome Cebien Alty to the is this a show? It's not a show. To the experience.
An
So,
experience. There you go. It will be an experience. I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you for this opportunity to really, talk and share my story. And like I was telling you before we went live, I mean, this has to be good because everything that could go wrong was going wrong before I could jump on here. I mean, my internet was acting up, my computer was freezing. I mean, I have a neighbor's dog in the background is barking. I'm like, Chris, can you hear that? And so I'm like, you know what, I must have something to share if all of this stuff is going wrong. And so definitely appreciate this opportunity. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
oh, this is going to be great. And while we are connecting, Cebien, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hop into my page. I'm going to share it over to my personal right quick. And I just want to make sure that we are all aligned on
Yeah.
social media. So let's go ahead and do that. Give me 1 second here, Cebien. And so while I'm doing that, though, talk about your company. I want this to just I want to give you the opportunity, not just towards the end, but this is a part of your story. Like what we're talking
Yeah.
about, there's some meat here where what you have chosen to do is the game changer, like
Yeah.
for a large part of your future. So, and your present right
Yeah.
now. So yeah, go ahead and talk to us about CBeyond. That's the letter C, the word beyond.
Yeah.
That's it. I was going to add more. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know that
yeah,
was an
yeah.
awkward pause.
There's so many places that we can start, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, and so I'll just respond to the question that you asked. And so, CBeyond Enterprises Worldwide is a company I actually founded a couple years ago, back in 2018, alongside doing my corporate job, and so had my executive level job. Everything's going great. Started to do that on the side because of a calling. And when you have your side hustle and you have your professional career, you sort of did and dabble, but you don't really focus. So let me talk about myself. You do it, it's a vision given to you, and so you touch it, and you're like, okay, I'll play with it a little bit, but not really a lot. And so was doing that for a while until it led to what we're going to get into. But essentially, I noticed throughout my experience, there was a gap. There was a big gap in the talent development and solution space. And I'll talk about that journey, but the name, I want to back up and talk about CBeyond. The name actually came to me, and this might sound, it might sound too high, or I don't know what it is. But the
Hyper
word
spiritual. Hey, listen, this is
spiritual, whatever you want to call it, but that
yeah, but
name.
before you go in, I just want to insert here that most of the stories that we love, most of the movies that we enjoy have some sort of call to adventure with some
Yeah.
supernatural aid that allows us to move forward. So you are in good company. My favorite movie is The Matrix, and Morpheus is like, I believe. That's faith. So
we're there.
we're here.
We're there. Yeah. So CBeyond came to me, literally, it was given to me. And obviously my name is Cebien. And so that name, it literally was dropped to me and downloaded to me in a vision. And when I say vision, I mean just in my spirit. And so in my daily conversations with God, literally the way we're talking like now, I have these conversations and dialogue with God all the time. Like we're just chopping it up like this about everything that goes on in my life, and wanting to knowing at a very early age that I would eventually lead and own my own. It never left. And so when the time came and I really was looking to God to see what the next phase was, he dropped this in my spirit in 2018 because I really wanted, and I'll talk about my personal journey a little bit, but I really wanted the name of my company to really emphasize what it is that I see in folks. And when I look at folks, and it doesn't matter if you're young, old, whatever, black, white, male, female, when I look at someone, I don't look at them in their current state. When I look at someone, I always see the future state and the potential in what else is to come. So I always see beyond the current state, and I see into what's possible. And so for me, when that name came to me, it was like that aha moment. And then figuring out how to turn that vision into a platform, business, and service came the rest. And the name evolved, and God downloaded worldwide to me. Before it was only CBeyond Enterprises, and then he tagged on worldwide early last year, and the vision has now come to fruition. And so there's much more behind the name, but it's something that was downloaded to me. It's a play off my name, which was fantastic. And so a lot of people are like Cebien. I'm like, that's not why. I mean, it makes sense, but that's not why. Let me give you the full story. And so for me, my company name really, it is the mission, because to me, we'll talk about, the audience targets, but being able to encounter someone, whoever, in whatever walk of life, and see beyond where they are, see beyond credentials, see beyond their academics, their family history, their trauma, whatever the situation, and see into what's possible. Because that was done for me is why I'm in my seat today, Chris. I can actually run an organization and a company that can do this. And we'll talk about, how I'm laying out the platform and really shifting the industry. But that's the story behind the name. I mean, I hope that makes sense and that, went over a little bit. But that's the name of that's the story of the name.
It makes sense. It made a lot of sense. And as a matter of fact, it's so fun. I don't even think you went over. It's so good seeing Pierre. He put in there CBeyond, like the actual word C, and so he's joining us. And I'm pretty sure that there are some other individuals as well. So this is what we're gonna do. I want us to go ahead, because I think you might have just mentioned the midpoint of your story. So for those of you that are new to this, actually, I'm new to this as well. So that makes all of us. And I shouldn't say I'm new to it. I'm new to it doing in this way. We're actually going to live kind of illustrate Cebion's story, but not just Cebion's. Anyone who's coming on this platform, we're going to map out and I'm getting better at refining which framework to use. Right now, Cebien, I think I like the Magnificent 7 story plot framework. So with the story plot of 7 points, we're going to go with your backstory first. I have the lorem ipsum dolor sit amet, that's just the fillers for, when we start filling out these things. But then we're going to go from your backstory to your catalyst. So the backstory is the context, and you kind of gave some of that already, but then we're going to go to the thing that actually is going to move you a little bit forward in your story, kind of like the call to adventure. It almost kind of pushes you to make a particular decision. And then we've got the big event. This is the game changer. This is the life event. This is the thing that really is a milestone of, okay, I have to make another decision here. But then the midpoint is not where you have to make another decision. You are proactively proactively saying, I'm deeply motivated into doing this thing. I'm committed. And then we've got a crisis, something, something bad happens. Then there's the climax. The climax you can consider as my computer is now freezing here, but that doesn't, I hope you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Whew. Okay, so the climax is more so like the low point. It's this the event that forces you to make a decision that is going to lead to the end.
Yeah.
And then the last is the realization, the conclusion, the resolution. So what you just mentioned, Cebien, you mentioned the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was going to say, let's start with the end first and then work our way back. But let's begin with where you actually started fleshing out the story already.
Yeah.
Where would this vision be? And the reason why I'm asking you versus me being the storytelling connoisseur would kind of say where it is because there's so much more to the story that we may not know. The vision might just have been one piece that kind of led to another. So would that be the midpoint? Would that have been the big event? Now, remember, the big event is like this game-changing, kind of like the pinch that's putting pressure on you to force you into action. And the midpoint is like you're moving from action to reaction. There's this milestone that really is just deeply changing your life. Where would that vision piece go? I want to start with the vision, and then we can either work forward or backward.
Yeah, so the vision piece, Chris, really is part of the, I would say that's part of the backstory because that's not even, the vision isn't even, it's not even the big piece. Because when we talk about the big event and all of that, it really goes back to my spiritual walk. And I gave myself, I'm a corporate strategist by trade, have been in the leadership professional development space for over 15 years. And so I gave myself at the 10-year mark, I said, you know what, I'm going to transition out of this because remember, I said, I always knew from an early age that I would run and own my own. And so I had given myself a timeline of, okay, when I hit the 10-year mark, the transition is going to happen. I'm going to go into whatever my next is. And so the vision piece really was just the beginning. It was the beginning of here's how I'm going to get to it. And so when I reached the 10-year mark within my corporate experience or career that I was in, and 10 years went by, year 11, year 12, 13, and a lot of other things happening in between that, life changes and shifts and all of that. And I can talk about that a little bit personally. But there was this, I call it sort of this nagging feeling or this little, this little, this nagging, like tap on the shoulder, like, okay, like what's going on? Are we going to do something or are you just going to stay comfortable? And so for me, that became louder and louder over the past couple of years. And so remember, my vision was given to me in 2018 for CBeyond. And so I sat on that for a couple of years. And then going into 2020, that little tap on the shoulder, it was getting louder and louder. I mean, it was hitting me a little hard. And I'm like, okay, what is this? What am I? Nothing's wrong. I mean, I'm in my cushy job. I make a good salary. I'm helping folks. I'm making impact. And, I'm also going through some life transitions.
Talk about this. Talk about this idea. You might miss it. And the reason only I'm going to say you might miss it because we talked about this before. This idea that there was it wasn't like between a bad choice and a good choice. It was like a good choice and a God choice. Talk about that, where you could have been good in corporate. Let me shut up. I want to hear from you.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a great way of putting it. A good choice, and then there's God choice. And so, like I was sharing with you offline, everything for me is purposeful, and so there is nothing that happens just because. Good, bad, and different doesn't matter to me. It all happens for a purpose, an intended purpose. It might not be for you, it might be for someone else, but it happens for an intended purpose. And so when that little tap was getting, it wouldn't go away. It just, I couldn't sleep. I was getting up, at that 3, 4 a.m. slot. And every time I would get up between those hours, I literally would say, okay, what's up, God? What message do you have for me? What are you woke me up. I would always receive a lesson or a teaching or whatever. And so when in my professional realm, there were things going on with the organization and the company that I was with that was unsettling and unnerving, coupled with this feeling of, okay, something is here, but I need you to tell me what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed clarity. And so what I did was I went to this 30-day fast and prayer session. And because I needed that clarity, I said, I don't know what this is. It's not going away. I'm good where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And, I'm a father of 3 growing children, 2 boys and a daughter. I have an ex-wife. I have mortgages, all these bills and all of this stuff. And so I'm like,
just compounded. Yeah.
Calm down. I don't ruffle any feathers, but this feeling would not go away.
Yeah.
So went into this fasting and prayer session about 30 days. And out of that, Chris, to make a long story short, came out of that. And it was so clear and evident to me. God revealed to me in those 30 days that here's what you have in front of you, Cebien. You can you're good. Either way, I'm not going to fault you. There's no wrong answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're good where you're at. I'm in leadership. I'm making decisions. I'm making impact. I'm creating income. I'm providing. All of that is good, especially during a pandemic on top of everything else, right? I'm good. I'm comfortable. I am the SME, subject matter expert, in various areas within my organization. And so the organization I was with. And so God said, you can either stay where you're at. And when I say this is literally what I heard. Stay where you're at, Cebien, and you're good.
Yeah.
You're fine. You'll be perfectly fine. There's nothing, you don't have to worry about anything. You're good where you're at. Everything will continue as is. Or you can take this opportunity to move to your next and go to that place that I call there. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Go to that place that's called there. And there's a lot more in that as well. Go to my next. And so flesh said, Cebien, you have all of this.
Yeah.
Let's look at your reality.
Yeah.
You have kids. You have a son in high school who's going to graduate in a few years. You have, child support. You have your mortgage. You have all of this stuff. You have your bill. You have your independent life.
Yeah.
So my flesh said, wait a second, brother, look at all of this. But my spirit and my passion said, and that youth, that young youth that said, you will own and run your own, said, there's next. I had already reached the level I could reach where I was in my industry. It was either stay, be comfortable, continue doing what I'm doing, reach impact and all that, which would be fine for the rest of my life, or switch and see what grander that God has on the other side and in the next. Which comes with
okay.
Go ahead.
No. This is good. Okay, because you're saying on the other side, and I'm looking at that midpoint, and on the other side is crisis, climax, realization. We're gonna roll down this hill. So let me just do a recap right now so far with what we've got. So the backstory is that you were working in the corporate space. You have a vision, and there's this nagging feeling to do something after having worked in corporate for 10 plus years. And the catalyst for us is that there has been this increasing nagging to the point where it was just waking you up at 3 a.m. And so you decided to do a 30-day fast for clarity. That's kind of what's pushing us to now this big event. This is the life-changing moment where God gives you, and I put here in air quotes, well, not air quotes there because it's written, but in quotes, ultimatum to stay in corporate or to be an entrepreneur, really to take a risk.
That's it.
I want us to go to what is the midpoint? What is the next? What is the thing that now is going to be your motivator? What was that event that said, okay, I go from God showing up and I'm having to react to the choices that he made to, okay, I'm all in. Let's go. Because CBeyond is here. We know it exists. So what did you do? What was that top of the hill moment where you're like, okay, let's do this?
Yeah. And so in the industry that I'm in, leadership development, professional development, student youth access, what folks don't see who are not in the industry are the thousands of young folks. And let's focus on diverse young folks, because the space we're in. That's the language that's being used across the landscape, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of that, right?
Yeah.
In that space, although there are dozens and of platforms and resources that try to create that opportunity and pathway for folks, I know in that space, in that same space, that we turn away thousands. And when I say turn away, I mean we stop at the gate thousands of students who have raised their hands and say, yeah, I need help, help me gain access, help me, start my career, help train me, develop me, get me to where I need to be so I can see beyond my current situation. I know that the fact is there are thousands that are stopped at the gate, and stopped at the gate means stopped at the application stage. And so for me, seeing that and knowing that these students were just literally sitting in a pool called an application, no communication. They might have received their rejection letter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You come to us for help, but then we send you a rejection letter and say, nope, you don't fit A, B, C, or D. So no.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was sort of the big motivator, the big event, because I said that was the point where I clearly saw what CBeyond could do in the space of talent development and solutions, and really remove the barriers for students who came to my organization for development. We're going to talk about career and all that and how we help them move along. But if a young person at the college level is coming to me and having a conversation and saying, I want to be and do better, can you help me? Who am I to say, you know what, you don't have the right GPA, the right major, you're not in the right location or even the right level of students, so no.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense to me. When they're the ones coming to us.
Yeah.
And so for me, my company is shifting that narrative and really removing those barriers that align with GPA, major, location, and giving access to all students who seek it at the college level. And then we'll talk about, all of the other stuff, all of the other benefits. But that is the big event. I wanted to make a greater impact in the industry and make sure when we talk about no kid left behind, no student who wants access to professional development that comes to CBeyond will be rejected. Point blank, period. Like that. If that's what you want, that's what you will receive. And the other benefits come along with that in the form of early career exposure. But that is it. That's what brought me to realization today.
That's so good. I had to just add that as a sticky note, but I think I should have probably also put it here as well. Shifting the focus on how students get access to education. No student will be rejected. Like that. That is so. By the way, just hearing the passion when you said no student. Yeah, I know you about that business. I know you about that business.
Yeah, I'm about that.
Yeah,
I'm about that. And, if I can add, Chris, the reason I'm so passionate about that is,
tell me, please.
Even in my own personal journey, it's not like I'm this high achieving academic with all these accolades and, things behind letters behind my name. So I literally know what it's like to say, I want an opportunity. I mean, I can do it. Just give me an opportunity. Yeah. I know what it's like to be in that space and sit in that seat and just want someone to just take a chance. Yeah. And because several folks took an opportunity on me and saw beyond my current state and saw the potential in me. Yes. That's why I'm sitting in my seat today. And I have never forgotten that. If it wasn't for those folks who said, we'll look past that. Yep. We won't judge you on that, or we won't look into that. Yeah. Because of those folks, that's why I'm here. And that's exactly the story of CBeyond. Yes, there's things that happen and we don't know your full story. So I'm not going to relegate you to a GPA, major, and location. That's not your story. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's a minute point of an emerging professional story. Is there a few bullet point criteria areas? And so for me, it's much more than, going through, do you meet 1, 2, 3, and 4 to get into this program or be sent to an employer for consideration? It goes much more beyond that. That's good, because now we're going to get to the point where you hit your crisis. Now you've taken on the call to adventure. You said, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this thing. What is the low point? What is the event that forces a key decision that is going to lead to the end? Now we know what the end is, right? The end is a happy but still ongoing,
process right now.
Right.
But what is the moment after you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, you hit crisis mode?
So as a as a business owner, and then at that being a Black business owner, and then at that being so passionate about what my company is doing and shifting in the industry,
Yeah.
the crisis, I would say, is that although I have the years of experience, I've done this and I'm well connected and all of that, it's really getting folks to shift. You would think, yeah, I mean, what's the crisis? Well, I mean, it should be a no-brainer for folks to jump on this and do it with you.
Yeah.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
You would think in the age of Black Lives Matter, equity, diversity, inclusion, all of these buzz terms going out there, that would make sense, that it would be easy. But I would say for me, it's really helping companies change really and really look at, the way they select talent. When I talk to companies nowadays and they're talking about their diversity initiatives, nothing against HBCUs, because I work with several of them, but their defaults are, we want diversity, so we're beefing up our HBCU plan. I'm like, okay. You do realize that there are Black and Latinx students at PWIs as well, right? Predominantly white institutions. That HBCUs, yes, we love them. Yes, fund them. Yes, grow them, because we know they're struggling. But don't leave out the other folks, that fit that criteria, that are also raising their hand. But because the focus is over here in one segment, we're missing out on the population. And so for me, really helping companies shift that and understand that they need to look at the entire scope of the diverse talent sphere. And then also working with colleges and universities, because students are not used to having a resource like this. And so what I'm finding, Chris, is the students that apply to us, they're the typical student who can get into any program. High performing, they don't really, I don't want to say they don't really need us, because we need them, but they can get into any other program that's similar. Gotcha. And so right now, a lot of the conversation, the crisis comes in, and like, there are tons of students so used to not being given access, they're not even attempting. They're not even throwing their name in the hat. They're not even going online and applying and seeing what's out there for them. And so helping colleges and universities get this narrative out has been a critical part, something that an uphill climb, I would say, in battle for my company, because I'm like, wow, here we are, we've removed all these barriers, but yet it's still a struggle for those students who actually need the access, for them to actually say, okay, this is legit. I can actually gain access. I can actually get the development. I can actually get the access to the career opportunities I'm looking for, like my peer over here who's at a 4.4 and can go to multiple organizations. I had a 2.8 or 3.0. I get that same access. That right there has been the challenge, changing that narrative with students and getting that out to make sure that they understand they have the same access that all of these other high-performing students have, and helping companies see beyond the current, everybody. And I'll stop and turn it back to you.
No.
There's this buzzword of talent gap. There's lack of talent and all of that.
Okay,
that's in the industry.
I'm gonna put a pin right there. Talent gap. So let's now contextualize or try to create a more personal context of how that impacted you, for not the low point that is in industries that has impacted how you're able to progress, but more so, how did that become a crisis for you? So you, like you said, and maybe talent gap is the way to kind of introduce what this crisis is. How did that impact you? What made that for you not just frustrating and realizing, oh my goodness, nobody sees the vision? That could be part of the crisis, but how did that realization now impact you actually being able to fulfill your role?
Yeah, so the way that personally impacted me is because, when you have a vision and the vision you want it executed, and obviously it takes time to have folks buy into that vision and really benefit from it, right? And so knowing that I have built this resource, my company has built this resource and this access, but yet it is hard for folks to, that term, if it's too good to be true, it almost falls under that category. This almost seems too good to be true. You mean to tell me that, I can receive development, I can receive coaching, guidance, support, access, and what do you want in return? Like, what's the catch?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's how it personally impacted me, or how it is personally impacting me, because it's like, there is no catch other than you raising your hand and saying, yeah, I want the opportunity if you're a student, and for companies saying, yeah, we'll partner with you alongside and make this change and close the opportunity gap. That's it. Because for me, there is no other company in the talent space and development space that does and offers what CBeyond does. And so we are an anomaly. It's a rarity of what we're doing, and it's a game changer. It's very disruptive to the talent solutions and development space. And so for me, going against that and really shifting the industry, it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill climb. It's not going to be easy.
Okay. So is it fair to say? Is it fair to say that the crisis was, and I just put it here, please, let's massage this together. If I'm off, then let me know, but access resources, and I put that in caps so that they know that that's what, what you are providing, or part of the solutions. Access resources for students were developed by you. But that's a but there, but there's difficulty in getting others, being the companies, to help bridge the gap, the talent gap, meaning they didn't want to take you on your offer. I have now students who are career ready, but y'all aren't. Was that kind of a crisis? Like, I've got them ready, but y'all don't want to take them on. And so there's almost kind of like this bottlenecking that's happening, where it's like, now you've got all of these students, you've given them hope, but the realization is on the other side. And now you need to fulfill, or not fulfill, but help to open the eyes of companies who need to take on these individuals who you've actually been able to, for lack of a better word, groom, cultivate, be able to kind of
develop.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me put that in.
Yeah. That's it. And the other thing about I would add is the student piece, because again, I'm still finding that students who are used to being denied or stopped at the gate, that they're not even throwing their hat in the ring. So that's the other piece that I would add to that as well. But yeah, you captured it brilliantly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the reason why I'm going to not make the crisis the students is because this crisis and this low point is I'm putting in the context of CBeyond, where you have your eyes that were open to students not being able to be helped. I think also have you know what? Let's just put it here too. Students choosing not to receive help. Let's put it there for now, because you're right. I think that there is a level of sadness to know, okay, I built a thing not just for companies, but especially for students, and nobody wants it. At least that's what it feels like. We know clearly you're being successful in this thing, because like you said, you're shifting the industry. But the fact that you're like, okay, if I build it, they will come. The lies. Like, right. Where is everybody? So, okay, cool. So now that we've got the crisis, let's hit the climax. So once again, the climax, it's like the showdown. It's the final face-off between you and, it could be yourself, it could be another company, it could be, an administrator who was kind of like that person who was really kind of preventing you from really getting things off the ground. What would the climax be for you? Sometimes you also consider the climax as kind of like a pinch number 2. It's like a really laying the pressure on the hero. So what would you consider that?
So for me, the climax could be and is, when I go back to the vision, when I built the vision, and you said, if you build it, they will come. When when you start to encounter obstacles or challenges or pushback against that vision, your vision, it's my baby. Don't tell me it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? And so when you start to encounter some of that, as human and as flesh, we tend to do what? Fall back into our comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I could have easily just said, you know what? Let me just fall back in. Let me just go back to what I know is familiar, what is comfortable, where I know I will be successful because I have a track record. And so it was either do that or, face this thing head on. Because if I did not face this head on, Chris, I'm telling you, we're in, 2021. If I said no, this is too challenging, no one's going to buy into this, it's going to be an uphill climb. There are folks that I have yet to encounter 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line whose lives are waiting for a resource like this. They don't even know it yet. And so for me to say, no, this is too hard, I'm just going to go back to what's familiar with me. I am now having a negative ripple effect into the future of folks that I have not yet encountered. So for me, that was too much of a risk to take when I know where the need is, to just be comfortable, to settle into my comfort and not deal with challenges or anything like that. I could not take that risk. And so for me, it was push on. It was like, you need to keep pushing, push past these obstacles, shift these mindsets, talk to these companies, educate and encourage these students, and let's make this thing happen. And now, we're going to get, because I'm moving on to the other side of that. And I'm grateful for it, because if I just fell back and was like, no, let me just go back to what's comfortable, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Let me just tell you that, because everything, you're even part of this whole journey and experience for me. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be talking about CBeyond Enterprises, because I would have fell back into what's comfortable. And so I couldn't take that risk.
I'm going to put here the growth. It's going to be here, not only just the growth of CBeyond Enterprises, spell enterprises worldwide, but also conversations about what and how you not free, because you're not freeing students, but you're giving students and companies the opportunity to, what would that opportunity be in 3 words?
That opportunity is to really grow and impact together. You know what I'm saying? That's the opportunity. It's right there.
Together. Love it. Cebien, what we're going to do is we're going to go through your story arc. I thought the whole thing got erased. Oh, have mercy. So the backstory is Cebien. He worked in the corporate space for about 10 years, but then he had a vision, and it turned into this nagging feeling to do something while he had already completed a little over a decade of corporate work. And the catalyst is that there was an increased nagging that really started to even wake him up at 3 a.m. So what he decided to do was go on a 30-day fast for clarity. He needed to seek clarity as to why there was this nudge. Pierre Quinn, shout out to him. He calls it the nudge. Why is this thing bothering me? What is it about? The big event is that God gives him an ultimatum. He seeks the clarity, and this is what the ultimatum is. You can either stay in corporate or you can be an entrepreneur. You can take a risk for something bigger. The crazy thing is, it's not a bad choice versus a good choice. It's a good choice versus a better choice. And so the midpoint where he starts to shift is seeing students who weren't able to be helped to succeed in higher education. So he has this now desire to remove the barriers for their development. The big event, or the midpoint, is where he now goes from reaction, the nudge that's pushing him, to action, proactivity, where he is now pushing himself. It's a deep motivation, but there's a crisis because now that he's creating these access resources for students, he realizes that there is a difficulty in actually bridging this talent gap. His business becomes bottlenecked for two reasons. The first one is that students may not see their potential on even realizing that they can have these resources because of what they've been told all their lives. But on the other side, if he's developing these students, the companies think it's too good to be true. And so now he's like, I've got this vision, I've got these resources, and I need to get people to take it, because if they don't, then it's like, what am I doing here? Why am I even doing this business? He hit the low point, but then there was a climax. The climax is, it's almost like the come to Jesus moment. It's when the hero faces the dragon. It's the final showdown, and the showdown was with Cebien himself. He had to choose between going back to corporate world or facing the trial of opening the eyes of both students and businesses to see the need for the access and development resources that he created. Realization? Well, we're talking today. That's the first one. He's now having conversations about what and how to give students and companies the opportunity to grow and impact together, and also the growth of CBeyond enterprises worldwide. Cebien, that's your story.
That's it. That's beautiful right there, man. Storytelling at its finest. Yeah, I will add that that 10-year mark. That I've been in the industry for 15 years. It took me 15 years.
15.
That 10-year mark is what I thought I would be doing this at my 10-year mark, but obviously I tagged on and stayed comfortable for another 5 years on top of that. So
gotcha.
That was great.
Good stuff. Hey, listen, so I know we got to wrap this up. Honestly, when I look at life application, this whole thing is a life application, but let's just take a look now at your specific story, and let's stretch it out just for individuals who may say, okay, that's cool, but how does that work with me? What if we decided that the first step was that you actually have to do something, right? You have to, what would you say? Get to work?
Start. The simple word is just start. And it doesn't have, I think when we think about starting, we tend to think of big and grander, but just start in the little things, baby steps, baby steps, because I did not get here today by just starting big. It took little steps. Okay, look, got the name. Okay, great. Let me form it into a legit, got it. Baby steps, take those baby steps, and then eventually those will lead into the bigger steps. So just start.
And you know what I'm going to say, Cebien, because I think you're talking about start after you got the calling. I'm going to put here, just start in your corporate space. Like, just do something before all of that even works out, because it's going to be difficult for you to even get a challenge or an ultimatum if you ain't doing nothing. so we're going to say, just start, work on anything productive. But so after we just do this just start piece, what would be the next thing, as we're just kind of reflecting on your own story? So it could be 3 steps, it could be 4, maybe all 5, but what would be after? And you just kind of think about what has happened. So you worked in the corporate space, there was this nagging. What would you say? Listen to the nudge, listen to the uncomfortable, I don't know, what would that be for you?
I mean, after I started, it wasn't clear, but I knew I needed to do something. And so alongside, the next thing for me was to receive clarity. It was I started, and then the clarity came as like, and it almost goes back to the statement you just made, like, just start, even if it's in your corporate career, just start. And so for me, in my corporate career, I got the vision, but I was in my corporate career, and then I started to see where the gap and where I could be of service. Where could I fill a need? You know what I'm saying? And so I started, and then just like you said, start where you're at, starting where I was, and in that space of talent development and solutions, I found a gap, and I decided or received clarity on how I can actually resolve and be of service within that gap.
Okay, let's split that up into 2. So the first one is, we're going to put, so you're just working on something, and then there's maybe this level of awareness where you ask, find the gap in your work, ask, how can I fill the gap?
Yeah.
And then Just start again.
No, after that, it's do. You do. You start doing. Yeah, I mean, it would have been if I started, received the clarity,
Yes.
asked all the questions, it would have been all for naught if I didn't do anything. And so I started to do.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. And then from there, what would be the last thing? There doesn't have to be a last thing, but if there was a last thing.
It's just with everything, nothing is, for me, I am a big believer in evolution, meaning ever evolving and refining and making things as great as possible, as excellent as possible. I operate on a high level of excellence, and I'm no qualms about it. I make no apologies.
Yep.
There is excellence that I see in everyone, and I expect. And so for me, that next thing is really just continuing to refine and elevate and turn this into something that is excellent, where it becomes the benchmark in the industry. And so that's where I end with it.
Now, what I will do is I will definitely, clean up the verbiage and figure out a way to get it all to fit in the boxes. I'm the box person. I really am. I get a thrill from creatively putting everything in boxes. Listen, for those of you that just joined, you missed out, or maybe you were here the whole time, but go back and watch this thing. We just went through Cebien's entire story arc of the call to his adventure on providing these access and development resources for students, and then also helping companies to see their potential. Not even the potential, it's now the reality that he's already created. He's working on both end, guys. He's helping students, but he's also helping on the talent recruitment side with companies. And the life application to all of this, because there's some of you out there that might be saying, okay, that's cool. He's able to do this. He left corporate. He started his own business and now he's successful. But what he's saying to you is at the bottom here, just start, work on anything productive. And from there, you will find the gap in the work that you're doing. Then you ask the question, how can I fill that gap? Then you find it, you do it. Now, he also mentioned here, there's a caveat here that he mentioned. I want to also just kind of put this in here. Seek clarity, right? And that was so key. So I'm just going to put that as a sticky note because and then I can fit that in here somewhere. But there's somewhere in between here, seeking clarity as you find this gap. But after you find it, you do it.
That's it.
You fill the gap. And then what he's saying is it's not just enough to fill the gap. If you want to be a person of excellence, he put here, become a benchmark in the industry within the gap that you're trying to fill, then you need to continue to improve and to elevate. Improve your process and elevate other people as you're doing this thing.
That's it.
Cebien, man, I appreciate you. This was fun. I had so much fun.
Great. This is great. This is great.
I want to do another story. That
was great.
I have to. so
I got you. I appreciate this opportunity. This was phenomenal.
I appreciate you and your transparency. I mean, it's vulnerable to be able to share what you have shared today. So this is definitely, I don't take it for granted. So thank you so much.
Neither do I.
Hey guys, for those of you that are tuning in, listen, there's another one that's coming up and stick around for that one. But that aside, Cebien Alty, not only are you the man, you are the man with not just the plan, the resources.
Absolutely, yeah. And if I could add, Chris, I definitely obviously want to invite anyone to connect with me and learn more. This was great. I love the way you orchestrated the story. And so definitely connect with me online. You can, the easiest way is to go on to my company's website, which is CBeyondEnterprises.com. The letter C, the word beyond, enterprises.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, my first and last name. Let's connect and dive in and connect. I can tell you more about the story and how, if you're a student, or if you know students, or if you know companies, etc. Let's talk about how to really help them shift the narrative that's in the industry. And let's create some success stories. I mean, Chris, for me, this was phenomenal. I cannot thank you enough. This was engaging. It was fun. It was interactive. I loved it. And just seeing you I was like, wow, that story is pretty great. Seeing you narrate it, that was fantastic. So thank you for this opportunity. This was phenomenal. I did not know what to expect. But
me neither.
Again, this journey as as I'm learning, as I continue to travel it's ever evolving, and every moment is phenomenal. And this is now another phenomenal moment that I'll be able to look back on and say, this was part of it. And so thank you for this, Chris. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you too, Cebien. Stay on. We're going to connect afterwards.
Great.
For everyone else, we'll see you on the flip side
Thanks,
of your
folks.
midpoint.